Very exciting things happening in and around the conference. We're very excited to be here talking to you today about careers in Web3 and crypto. Before we get started, anyone here interested in a career in Web3 and crypto that doesn't currently work in it? Okay, cool. You're in the right place. You're in the right place. Hopefully, by the end of the session, we'll be able to convince a few more of you on some of the opportunities available and, yeah, get you involved. So quickly, by way of introduction, my name's James, head up marketing for Australia and New Zealand for Binance. And this is my colleague, Mihirini. But you'll get to learn a bit more about our backgrounds and how we found ourselves in the space a bit later on. Just a quick run through on what we'll be covering in today's session. So a brief intro into Binance and Binance Academy specifically. And then an overview of crypto jobs and industry trends that we're seeing. Then a bit on our personal journeys, as I mentioned, where we come from, how we got into the space, as well as some guidance on people that are looking to break into it. And we'll recap with some opportunities available through Binance. OK, so Binance, who are we and why are we here? So at Binance, our mission is to provide the core infrastructure for organizing the world's crypto. So essentially, what that means is we want to increase the freedom of money worldwide. And we believe if we can do that right, we can improve the lives of people globally. And we've got some pretty ambitious goals. Our job is to onboard the next billion people into crypto. And locally, that's the next million Aussies and Kiwis into crypto, which is my job specifically. So how are we doing against that? It's fair to say we're making some progress, but there's still a lot of work to do.
So as part of our vision to increase the freedom of money globally, we're here representing Binance Academy's efforts to spread crypto education and engaging students and young people worldwide, recognizing that you are the builders and leaders of tomorrow. So Binance set up the Academy within its first year of launching to provide free localized education on blockchain technology. Its mission is simply to educate the world about blockchain and the potential of Web3. We have almost 800 localized blogs and articles covering all levels of knowledge and ability, with more being added every week. To date, Binance Academy has a total of 39 million people who's visited and used our site. And despite being in the crypto winter, we are really proud to say the platform has actually had a 62% uptick in the last 12 months. So that really demonstrates that people are eager to learn and eager to continue to learn. Education is central to everything we do. And in a recent survey we did about 8 weeks ago, just 70% of Australian crypto investors have said they have a strong knowledge of crypto. And this drops to about 3% when you talk to non-investors. So it is the biggest barrier to people investing.
Sweet. So today's session is going to focus specifically on crypto jobs and some of the trends that we're kind of seeing. So as Mihirini mentioned, education is fundamental to everything that we do at Binance. You don't onboard the next million people into the space unless everyone's got a strong educational background to know what they're getting into. And as Mihirini also mentioned, we recently ran a survey with 1,000 of our users, and education and requests for education and learning more about crypto was the #1 ask for people. And not just for themselves, but how to help bring their friends and family on board too as part of the journey. Because we know that for most people, and I'd be interested to know for the people in this room today, how they got into crypto, but according to our data, most people get in through a friend or family member. And so we want to empower and encourage our users and the next generation to then onboard, their friends and family as well. So there's been a couple of really interesting research pieces done in the last few months. As you can imagine, the crypto industry, well, despite crypto being around for 15 years, I think we just celebrated the 15th anniversary of Satoshi's white paper. So despite crypto being around for 15 years, the industry as a whole, from a job perspective, is still relatively nascent. So it's currently, so there's not much research that's been done on it, essentially. But some of this research that's just come out this year paints an encouraging picture, but it still shows just how early it is. So there's roughly 190,000 crypto workers working across 10,000 crypto companies. And if you do the maths, that's not a very big number of people per company. There's a lot of small projects, and then just a very few organizations. And Mihirini and I are lucky enough to work for one of the bigger ones, Binance. But yeah, a huge opportunity for big businesses and big organizations to kind of grow when more workers come into the space. And in this research done by, who was it again? It was, yeah, in this research done by K33, who are a crypto brokerage firm, they paint a picture which shows that 60% of people who are currently working in crypto are working in trading and investment type roles and activities. And if you can think about it, like blockchain's been around for 15 years, but crypto is still the most fundamental use case. So it makes sense that trading and investment makes up such a large proportion of the jobs. And just within that data, about 2/3 of the trading and investment jobs are in DeFi. So a lot of smaller projects, like I said, and then 25% of the total, a third of the trading jobs are in centralized institutions, centralized financial institutions like Binance. So yeah, a lot of trading and investment. But as you can imagine, as this technology continues to develop and the diversity of projects that are getting built on chain start to diversify, that's going to result in a whole plethora of new jobs, roles, and applications that are kind of being built on top. And that opens up huge opportunities for people that don't currently see jobs in the space or see where they'd fit in. Just know that there's a whole swathe of different opportunities coming down the pipe. And for me personally, like I see it across two industries in particular, or two specific areas, like gaming and NFTs. They're two areas that are expected to develop and grow in a large way. And as you can imagine, just how many different games are out there, just how many different applications there are for NFTs, and all of the jobs associated with those. So I find that incredibly exciting. And then from like a global perspective, as you can imagine, a lot of the technology kind of started, a lot of the projects started in the US, but crypto is decentralized in nature and pretty distributed, right? And so we're currently seeing the majority of jobs move away from the US and into more developing economies like Asia. And Hong Kong in particular have brought out some recent regulation which is encouraging businesses to kind of set up shop there. We're also seeing movements in Europe with more companies choosing to choose Europe as the headquarters. And interestingly, 1.5% of all crypto jobs globally are currently in Australia, which gives me a lot of hope for optimism, and I think there's a lot of upside locally. Just look around here. We're going to get 10,000 people at the Australian Crypto Convention in what has been a pretty bearish market. It just shows you the excitement, the engagement, and the energy, and I think that's going to translate in a lot of jobs locally over the next 1, 5, 10 years. And then there was also some interesting research done by a company called Pantera Capital, who are a US-based hedge fund, and they looked specifically into some of the nuances of the roles that are in crypto. And one of the things that struck out for me personally was that 88% of all crypto jobs are remote. So us at Binance, we're 100% remote. So it gives us the freedom, the flexibility to travel to different places, to meet our users in different areas. My team specifically is in New Zealand, up in the Gold Coast. I'm in Sydney. We've got a team in Melbourne, Perth, all around Australia, but all around Asia as well. And it's just great having the ability and the freedom to move around and connect with people in different areas, meet different communities, and just engage in the conversation, because all the conversations that are happening in all these places are very different. But essentially, it all rolls up into the conversation kind of online, really, which is, yeah, how we all kind of connect. So, yeah, maybe shouldn't be a surprise, given that decentralized nature of crypto, as I mentioned. And a funny one that they brought out, which made quite a few headlines, is that although we're all working in the space and we have a massive passion and interest in crypto, only 97% of workers are currently getting paid in fiat, which just goes to show how early we are in the journey, and how, like, when it comes to real world things like bills, yeah, we still have to pay that in fiat. So a long way to go until we can do our day-to-day spending in crypto.
So how did we find ourselves here? I will go first. So in my current role at Binance Global, I lead change management required to ensure our products align with the local regulations in the countries that we operate in. But how I got there prior to that was I studied banking and finance and worked in a bank, surprise, surprise. But I was always excited by tech and its evolution and the power it had to democratize access to the everyday person. And from this, I started looking into fintech business models, and I found examples of use cases where they make meaningful impact to everyday people, and unlocking sort of opportunities for people that they didn't know were options for them. So that then got me into Bitcoin from fintech. I moved on to Bitcoin, and the more I started digging, the more I realized that I wanted to be in this space full time. And so I was overjoyed when I got my first role at Binance Australia, where I double-hatted as a product and project lead. And it was, it's one of the best opportunities I have had, and it's opened up so much for me, that more than I've envisioned when I started in the role. And from there, I moved on to my current role, and don't regret it.
Thanks, Mihirini. So Mihirini's one side of the coin. She's come from traditional finance. I definitely do not. I come from a tech background. But I think one of the things that I kind of wanted to share is that there's no linear pathway in crypto. So I started out doing physics at university, and I'd end up working for some companies and some businesses and some business models that didn't even exist right when I was graduating. The Bitcoin white paper just got published whilst I was at uni, without wanting to age stamp myself too much. But what I would say is that my curiosity and passion for technology has led me down really interesting rabbit holes, from data analysis in gaming to product marketing at some of the biggest Web 2 platforms in the world. And yeah, it was then in 2020 when I was at TikTok that I went down the crypto and Web 3 rabbit hole. So pretty late to the game, but I like to think I'm making up for lost time by throwing myself all in. And yeah, it was really for me then that I could see the potential benefits for digital ownership, especially when it came to creators, for owning and monetizing their own content online. I'd worked for Facebook and TikTok, two advertising mammoths. And you see creators putting themselves out there, developing really engaging, thoughtful content, and not necessarily getting the reward for that. And I believe that digital ownership is something that can help improve that and give value back to the people that are creating it in the first place. And so for me, during that period, like I said, going down the rabbit hole, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos. Does anyone here listen to the Tim Ferriss podcast? Okay, couple of fans. Well, there was an episode around that time with Chris Dixon from A16Z and Naval Ravikant, who's the founder of AngelList and a tech philosopher type guy. And they were essentially talking about the potential for Web3 and the benefits for creators, and it really got me interested. But they mentioned one thing in particular, and I think it's based on an old computer science problem called climbing the wrong hill. And essentially, you find yourself on a hill, and you're like, oh, I've made it. This is such a good hill. But essentially, when you get to the peak of that hill, then you see the other hills around, and you realize that actually there's so much more out there. And they talked about optimizing your career for the short term or the long term. And I said to myself, if I really believe in this technology, if I really believe in these use cases, then I'm on the wrong hill. And so it was that moment that I decided to start looking for jobs and opportunities in the Web3 and blockchain space. And that's how I ended up at Binance. So, Mihirini, given your background and your time at Binance and in the space, what would you say it takes, and given the fact that you're very successful in what you do, what would you say it takes to be successful in this industry?
I think being open-minded, be open-minded and then do that a little bit more. I think that's quite important. And just be ready to pivot because you need to be eager for a challenge and ready to pivot. And you and I both know that that is central to what we do. And as you said earlier about remote work, 88% of the jobs are remote, and I believe that you have to assume the best in people, because if not, because so much of my time is spent managing stakeholders and coordinating with different groups of people. So assuming the best in people, then you don't get distracted and you make sure you get what you need done. I think that's key. And of course, passion. And if you're like us, you're here. If you have the opportunity to combine something that you're passionate about with something that you do as for work, it can be the most rewarding. So when things go well, it's incredibly joyful, and then when things are exhausting, you're motivated to push through because of your passion. What about you?
It's interesting when we had this question, we both came up with very similar answers independently, which I don't know if that says more about Binance or it says more about the industry. But for me, it's agility. Like, things move so fast in this industry. Things happen all the time, and you constantly have to be ready to adapt to new technologies, adapt to new challenges, new issues. From a marketing perspective, we plan marketing campaigns, we have the best intentions, something will happen in the market, we'll have to pivot. All of that great work, all of the campaigns unseen, don't get released. But yeah, you have to be flexible and have that agility to kind of react to what's happening, because things happen so fast. Which leads to the next point, which is curiosity, right? Like, I think that's the one thing that's followed me throughout my career. It's just having a constant curiosity about how things work, what the new projects are, how they fit in together, understanding where the dots might connect. And then again, from a marketing perspective, if we're trying to onboard the next million people, what messages, what content, what campaigns and products do we have to get out there to satisfy that need and demand? So I think curiosity is really important. And then passion. I mean, it's a bit cliche, be passionate about what you do. But I think when you work in an industry like this, where you get a lot of stick sometimes, I'll be in an Uber, and they'll be like, what do you do? I'll be in the hairdresser, that was the other day, and they'll be like, what do you do? And crypto's dead, it's a down market, it's not good for anything, and you need a tough skin, right? And you need to be passionate about what you do, otherwise that stuff will wear you down. And I love those conversations because I use them as an opportunity to help understand where people are at, how they're thinking, and just understand how we need to move this industry forward and some of the pushback that we kind of need to work through. So they're my three. What have you learned coming into the space?
That we're so early. James, do you think we're so early?
Very early.
But it is true, and you realize that when you are working. But the value in that is that you can find your fit, and you can keep redefining what you want, because as the space evolves, you can change what you want. That's one thing that I've noticed, and then. It also, in my experience, working for Binance, I found that everyone that is working there is very intentional about the choice they've made to work in crypto, and that creates really strong synergies and a level of proactiveness and harmony that I haven't experienced anywhere else. And I think you drive great outcomes when all of that comes together. And lastly, you've got transferable skills. We all do, and we can apply them in this industry. So those are my three.
Yeah, I think, again, it's another cliche. We're still so early. Blockchain's been around for 15 years, but from an industry perspective, it is very, very early. Like I said, there's only 190,000 jobs worldwide, and you look around and you see the leaders and you see the people that you're working with, and you understand that actually everyone's just trying to figure it out. And it needs way more people to help figure it out, because there's way more challenges and way more problems to solve for. And so from that respect, it's still incredibly early. I think the talent in the industry at the moment is super diversified. Like I said, this industry didn't exist years ago. So it's not as if you've gone into school and banking and law and very amazing industries, and you can follow a very traditional path, but there's no pathway really into blockchain. There are a number of university courses which are coming up, which are great, but people currently in it come from different backgrounds, from banking to tech, from community, from developers, like literally the most diverse group of people I've ever worked with. And I think that diversity is needed because the challenges that we're solving for are so diverse, and the technologies and the products and the applications that are being built are so diverse. And so I just see there's huge potential for anyone with any ideas to kind of come in and have an impact in that respect. Any other advice?
Probably just to trust your gut and just apply for that role. Don't be intimidated. You don't need to tick all the boxes. I applied for a role that I thought I had no business doing, and it's turned out to be the best payoff I've had. So that's what I'd say.
And me?
And you?
I'd say to just to like be curious, right? Like watch, listen, read, wherever you get like your information from. Just be a sponge, absorb it, engage in the conversation online. Discord if you're in certain communities, but I find LinkedIn's actually a really strong place these days for the crypto conversation, especially here in Australia. Some really good advocates there. And then engage offline. Like, it's fantastic that you're all here today. It's fantastic to see the number of people turning out on a Saturday here in Melbourne. And I go to meetups like every week in Sydney. There's meetups up and down the country. I think find your own tribe, talk to your own people, and like everyone is so open and willing to connect. That's another thing that I found moving into the space. So if you go to some of these meetups, you'll meet people, and yeah, it'll hopefully take you down the rabbit hole too. So just before we wrap up, just wanted to mention a number of opportunities available through Binance. If anyone's interested, hopefully we piqued your interest. Won't spend too much time going through this because I think we're starting to come to time. But first and foremost.
So very quickly, we have the Student Ambassador Program. And that kicked off last month as part of our uni tours, which also kicked off last month. So we're basically looking to recruit 2 students per university to work with us to drive crypto education across campus. And this could mean you helping us with workshops, hackathons, and generally acting as a link between us and the university. And you can scan that barcode there to get more information, and we'll move on. And then for those that are about to graduate, we've got the Binance Accelerator Program. It's a concise 3 to 6 month program designed to provide you on-the-job learning in the Web3 place for entry-level talent. So we welcome students and fresh graduates with no experience to up to a year of work experience after you've graduated. And again, the barcode there will give you more information. And we've got one more.
Cool. Yeah, like Mihirini said, very much focused on universities right now, given our national university tour. So we've got a university outreach program where we're looking to work with professors, societies, students themselves to do hackathons, webinars, events in and around campuses. Because we believe education is like fundamental for what we're doing, and like Mihirini said, we've already been to the University of Western Australia, University of Sydney. We've got an event coming up at the Gold Coast, and then we've got events planned for Melbourne in the new year as well. But apart from universities, like I said, happy to chat to anyone afterwards about anything to do with getting into the space, breaking into it. Our Binance stand is right behind you, so stop by, have a chat. Take part in some of our activations and pick up some merch. Cool. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Quick selfie.